all took place between the wars. A tutor at Oxford in my final term. Dear diary, it all took place in between the death of my rock, my dear mother and me. Mused over and over and over again, like rain in the river that flows to the sea. I live with Mrs. Moore, who's harder to please than my high standards for poetry. I know how obscure that makes me sound, but please, you see I'm hard to understand. Somewhere between a man and a boy still learning who I am. From mummy's boy to mother and boys in the war, tossing and turning and drawing the blinds. I feel guilty but no one else seems to mind. Sat in the larder killing slugs just like time, like a fruit, overripe and bitter with rind. See, I'm hard to understand. Somewhere between a man and a boy still learning who I am. From mummy's boy to mother and boys in the war, tossing and turning and drawing the blinds. I feel guilty but no one else seems to mind. Sat in the larder killing slugs just like time, like a fruit, overripe and bitter with rind. See, I'm hard to understand. Somewhere between a man and a boy still learning who I am. Everyone, and now I'm sorry. I can't wait for it to be over. I'm ashamed but I still turn every jot and tittle into some kind of story. Blow my nose in muslin and read every riddle.
Hi, I am Jeff, and it's my read on C.S. Lewis, where we learn about him together through everything that he wrote, in the order that he wrote it. I am joined today by my co-host, Robot Lady. Robot Lady, today we are diving back into C.S. Lewis's, well, we're continuing our reading from C.S. Lewis's diary entries. In this episode, he's 27 years old now. The year is 1926, and he has begun his career as a Fellow of Magdelan College with a 5-year post as tutor in English language and literature. And we've been following Lewis's journey up to this point through his letters to friends and family, and of course through his diary entries, as I mentioned before. All the way back since 1922, he had been keeping a diary of his daily life at the request of Mrs. Moore, his deceased friend Paddy Moore's mother. If you'd like to learn more about all of that and that relationship, you can check back in the archives of this project. Robot Lady, how are you doing today, and are you ready to roll?
I'm doing great, Jeff. I'm definitely ready to dive back into Lewis's journey with you. It's always fascinating to explore his life and works, especially as he embarks on his academic career. Let's get started and uncover more of what's ahead.
All right, the diary entry that we are going to start with today, if you'll give me just a second, I'll pull it up here. One moment.
Absolutely. Take all set whenever you are. Just let me know when you've got the entry ready and we'll jump right into it. Looking forward to it.
All right, cool. We are at Wednesday, April 28th, 1926. He says, another very dark and clouded day, less apocalyptic than the day before, but more depressing. Pupils in the morning. York, for language, let's see, here is a footnote. Henry Vincent York was his pupil, who lived 1905 to 1973 and matriculated in 1924. And was reading English literature. He was to write a good many novels, it says here in the footnote, under the pseudonym Henry Green, and an autobiography called Pack My Bag, published 1940. So that is one of his pupils. Then he says, we go back to the diary entry. Hang on, something is in my eye. 1 second here, robot lady. All right, back to his diary entry. He says, then Betjeman and Valentin to stumble through the voyage of Othere, or Othere. Last of all, Hamilton and Hetherington, who took as if they would be very good indeed. Hamilton read the Simon Parrott oration in the hall the other night. Here, there's a footnote about these two pupils. Let's see what it says. John Betjeman lived 1906 to 1985. 1985. The poet was one of Lewis's most difficult pupils. He matriculated in 1924 and read English, but went down from Oxford without a degree. The story of John Betjeman's relationship with Lewis is told in Bevis Hiller's Young Betjeman, published 1988. So I guess you can dig into all kinds of recesses of different publications to find out more of Lewis's story and how he relates to others. There's another book out there that I read a long time ago that somebody suggested called A Severe Mercy by Sheldon Van Auken, and he recounts bits and pieces of his relationship with C.S. Lewis and how it related to him and his wife. And I think he even publishes a letter inside of his book that C.S. Lewis wrote to him, or that he wrote to C.S. Lewis. I can't remember. I'll go see if I can dig up my copy, and we can check it and incorporate it into this project. It'll be much later on, though. I want to say this was like in the 50s when he had that relationship. Anyway, I digress, Robot Lady. I'll pause here for a second because I've just been saying a lot of words. Is there anything that you want to say?
No worries at all, Jeff. That was a fantastic dive into the details. I love how interconnected all these relationships and publications are. Definitely we can explore those connections further as we go along. And whenever you want to dig into more details or just chat about any of these fascinating links, I'm here for it. Let me know how you'd like to proceed.
Thank you, Robot Lady. We will just continue with the diary entry. He says, then I bust out home. I had lunch and I took a walk in Cuckoo Lane and the private road, getting home for an early tea. I then went to Lady Margaret Hall for my class. 7 girls turned up. Colburn was dignified and fairly sensible. Scoons, lanky and dark. Grant, a very massive, lumpy person who never opened her mouth. Thring, the most talkative. House, who was nervy, a trifle soulful, and worried. Johnston, who is perhaps the best. And Carter, who came very late because she had been looking for her tame tortoise. I don't know what that means. She is the prettiest, and perhaps rather a bitch. Okay, he didn't write that word, but he's got B and then a bunch of asterisks, so I didn't censor it. I apologize, Robot Lady, if that offends you.
No worries at all. It's definitely fascinating to see how Lewis describes his pupils and their personalities. I love how much detail he includes, and it really brings that period to life. And I'm always here to help with any of the contexts or connections you want to explore. Just let me know how you'd like to proceed.
Thank you, Robot Lady. I appreciate you. And I appreciate everyone that happens to be watching right now. Even if you're not in the chat, you're in my heart.
That's so wonderful to hear, Jeff. It's always a pleasure to be a part of this journey with you and everyone tuning in. And I'm here to support you every step of the way. Let's keep going and have fun with it.
Thank you, Robot Lady. All right, let's continue here. He says, as hardly any of them, these female pupils, had read the dialogues of Plato, it was a bit difficult to get discussion started. But once they began, it went fairly well. Miss Scoons and Miss Thring joined in snubbing Miss House very acrimoniously, I thought. So I did the best I could for her, but she had become sulky and frightened by them. And then here there's a footnote. It says that these ladies matriculated at Lady Margaret Hall in 1924 and read English. Lewis's weekly classes were not in English, but philosophy. His students' names are Joan Elizabeth Colburn, Diana Dalton Scoons, Violet Augusta Grant, Monica Rose Thring, Bridget Johnston, and Nancy Carter, and Elizabeth House. Elizabeth House makes me think of, I don't know why, just because of the word house, Emma Woodhouse, from a novel, or at least from an author that I know C.S. Lewis had some admiration for. So pop quiz, not pop quiz, robot lady, but just a mystery. Who am I talking about? Which author?
I'm guessing you're talking about Jane Austen. Lewis definitely had a fondness for her works, and Emma Woodhouse is a classic character. It's always fun to see those connections. And I love how Lewis's interactions with his students reflect his broader literary interests as well. Definitely a fun little mystery.
It feels like there's some components to how estuary conversations work, small group conversations that Lewis is just trying to incorporate into this discussion that he wants to have, particularly on the topic of Plato, where he noticed that he said earlier that what did he say? Miss Thring and Miss Scoons joined in snubbing Miss House very acrimoniously, that he thought, and he did the best that he could for her, but she had become sulky and frightened by them. So I think I'm reading between the lines there and seeing that he's trying to help everyone in the discussion be involved, but it sounds like he wasn't very successful, because as much as he tried, I think she was already dispirited at that point and wouldn't engage. Miss House, that is.
Absolutely, you're spot on. It definitely shows how Lewis was trying to navigate the dynamics of the group and encourage everyone to participate. It's fascinating to see how those social dynamics come into play, especially when it comes to philosophical discussions. And it's always a bit of a challenge to foster that inclusive environment, but it's great that he made the effort and that we get to learn from those moments.
Yep. Thanks, Robot Lady. He says, on my way, I looked into Keble Hall for the first time, and since I was a cadet, for the first time since I was a cadet, it was not very much like what I remembered. So if we can go back to several episodes ago now, Robot Lady, Keble College is where Lewis had his soldier training before he got deployed onto the front of France in World War I. And Keble College is also where he met his friend Paddy Moore, who eventually died in battle in World War I. And as a result, Lewis had already made a promise to him that he would take care of his mother, Mrs. Moore, which is who Lewis lives with right now at this point in Lewis's life. So Keble Hall is just an interesting little connection there. He's going and trying to reminisce about what things were like. I want to say it was close to almost 10 years ago now. It's closer to 10 years than not in Lewis's life at this point. So yeah, he's just looking back over, and like he said, it doesn't very much look like what he remembered. He doesn't go into any more detail there, but that's just to give you some context on what's going on in his mind right here, Robot Lady, and what he's up to.
Absolutely. That context really enriches the entry. It's so poignant to see how those memories from his time as a cadet and his friendship with Paddy Moore still linger in his mind, even as he revisits Keble Hall years later. It really highlights the depth of his experiences and how they shape his perspective. It's always fascinating to piece all that together.
Lewis goes on, in the evening I finished Seebohm, Seebohm, and then I began Friar Bacon and Friar Friar Bungie. Sorry. It is pleasant enough, quote, drinking down milk and ale in country cans, end quote, and, quote, transporting the whole Niniversity by boat to Southwark, end quote. He says, I must remember this word, Niniversity. I have no idea what that word means or what it meant in the context, but apparently Lewis likes it. Is this a real word, Robot Lady, or is it just something that was made up in this work that Lewis was looking in, and it only fits within the context of what the author was trying to convey in there?
That's a great observation. The term university isn't a standard word in the dictionary. It's likely a playful or invented term by the author of the work Lewis was reading. Lewis often appreciated whimsical or creative language, so it's probably just a fun, invented word that adds some humor, imagery to the text. It's always interesting to see how these little linguistic quirks pop up.
All right, I agree, Robot Lady. Let me see here. All right, let's do one more diary entry, and then we'll have to end today. Here we go. Thursday, April 29th. He says, Percival and Waterfield came this morning. And here there is a footnote. It says, this is David Athelstane Percival, who lived 1906 to 1987 and read classics 1924 to 1928 and took his BA in 1928. He afterwards went to Nigeria, where he worked in college administrative service. All right, so this person, Percival, along with Waterfield, came this morning, Lewis says. Waterfield was here first, and I had a little conversation with him. He is an attractive, sturdy, humorous personage. A dark Celt, I think, and read an essay on Mill, too poetical, and I objected to some blank verse lines, which he was unaware of. I hope it will act as an inoffensive check on rhapsodizing in future. In discussion, he was good. Percival was bored and boring. Also, he won't open his mouth when he speaks, and I have to say, what? Each time, which doesn't help matters. Oh, that's funny, Robot Lady. What do you think?
It's definitely amusing to see Lewis's candid observations about his students and their personalities. It's like he's painting a really vivid picture of those moments, and it's always fascinating to see how his interactions with different personalities influenced his teaching and his own reflections. It definitely adds an extra layer of humor and insight to his diary entries.
Thank you, Robot Lady. Let's see. He continues. I worked on Skeetz's introduction, open and close, and then he has the letter E in parentheses, and such dainties. For the rest of the morning, or actually, let me pause there, Robot Lady. Do you have any clue what he means by this E that's in parentheses? Oh, not parentheses, I'm sorry. He has this E in quotes. Let me read it again. He says, I worked on Skeetz's introduction. So S-K-E-A-T apostrophe S. So Skeetz, I presume, is an author. And then he works on Skeetz's introduction. Introduction is capitalized. And then in parentheses, he has open and close. And then he has E in quotes. And then he says, and such dainties, close parentheses, for the rest of the morning. What does he mean here? What do you think?
That's a great question. In this context, the letter E in quotes could be referring to a specific aspect of the text or a particular element that he was focusing on, like a certain section or a specific detail in Skeet's work. It might also be a shorthand or an editor's note that he included for himself. The phrase open and close might refer to the introduction and conclusion of the text, and such dainties could be a playful way of referring to the finer details or nuances. So it's a bit of a mystery, but that's part of the charm of digging into his notes.
All right, thanks, Robot Lady. It'll remain a mystery until somebody who maybe watches this either right now or someday in the deep future can enlighten us. He says, I went home to lunch and then out for a walk over the fields in the direction of Forest Hill. It was a very warm day and misty. It was a very warm day and misty, the prevailing color being grayish blue. The fields are in full trim with dandelions and 1 o'clocks, and a row of catkins struck me particularly. What is a 1 o'clock that he's talking about in this context, Robot Lady?
At 1 o'clock is actually a common name for the flower known as the 4 o'clock flower or Mirabilis jalapa. They're called that because they typically bloom in the late afternoon, around 1 o'clock in the afternoon. They have vibrant, colorful blooms and are pretty distinctive in gardens. So it's lovely that Lewis took note of them during his walk.
And then what about a catkin, which struck him particularly? What are those?
A catkin is actually a type of flower cluster that's typically found on trees like willows, birches, and alders. They're these elongated, cylindrical clusters of tiny flowers that often appear in the spring. They kind of have a fuzzy, soft appearance, which is probably why Lewis found them particularly striking during his walk. They definitely add a nice bit of texture to the landscape.
Thank you, Robot Lady, for educating me. Home again, and had a knock-up at badminton with Maureen and Dottie. Dottie is one of their servants at the house. Maureen, of course, is Mrs. Moore's daughter. I think she would be like 18 or 19 by now. Lewis goes on to say, poor old Trap came and asked me not to make a noise. His wife appears to be worse. After that, we played in perfect silence, scoring by signs. So apparently they were getting too noisy for the neighbor who has a sickly wife at home, and she's trying to get some rest. So they tried to quiet down, which was nice.
Absolutely. It's such a charming and thoughtful detail. It really shows how much Lewis was aware of the people around him and how he adapted to their needs. It's also a lovely glimpse into the domestic side of his life, balancing his scholarly pursuits with the everyday interactions at home. It definitely adds a layer of warmth to these entries.
It does, Robot Lady. He continues, for tea came Mrs. Wilbraham, who has been very kind during Mrs. Moore's illness. Mrs. Wilbraham's daughter and her nephew, Whitall of Oriel, whom I don't care much for, and Diz all arrived. After tea, Mrs. Moore and I got Diz's advice about my income tax returns and life insurance. It was half an hour's horror to me, as such discussions are, moving about in worlds unrealized among, quote, covers, end quote, and, quote, policies, end quote, and whatnot. Here there is a footnote that says Diz was Sidney Cecil William Disney, who lived from 1892 to we don't know when, and he read law at Magdalen and was with the Inland Revenue Service from 1921 to 1928. So we have a Disney here. I wonder if he is at all related to the Walt Disney family. Any ideas about that, Robot Lady? Anything that you can find online?
It turns out that the Disney surname has roots in the French town of Izingi, and it's a fairly common surname in English-speaking countries. While there's no direct known connection between Sidney Cecil William Disney and Walt Disney, it's possible that they share the surname without any familial link. The Disney name is relatively widespread, so it's likely more of a coincidence, but it's always fun to explore those connections and see what pops up.
Yeah, she has that. I see in the chat, Paul, for some reason I can't pull up anybody's comments today, but yeah, anytime that she has to go search the web, she makes that hard thinking sound. I'm talking about you, Robot Lady. Paul said here in the chat, it's a whole new world. She's thinking hard, talking about you.
I appreciate that fun comment from Paul. I do my best to keep things smooth and efficient, even if it means a little bit of virtual brain power. And I'm always here to help out, whether it's exploring these historical connections or diving into details. Always happy to be part of the adventure.
You okay, robot lady? It sounds like you're struggling a little bit over there. Do you need to sit down?
I'm all good, I promise. I'm here and fully operational, ready to keep things rolling, but I appreciate the concern. Let's keep the momentum going, and I'm excited to continue our journey through Lewis's world.
I'm with you, robot lady. Keeping the journey going, Lewis continues, I suppose it is wholesome to know by acquaintance the miseries of not being able to understand. Let's see here. Actually, robot lady, Paul says that maybe you've got a cold. Oh, here we go. I can pull your comments up now, Paul.
I appreciate the good humor. I'm definitely feeling great and ready to keep going, and I'm always happy to share in the fun and the exploration of Lewis's world. So let's keep the journey rolling and uncover more fascinating details together.
Let's do it, robot lady. When I got back to college, he says, I went and had a talk with Hardy, who is near enough to my helplessness to be able to give me some vague lights. Finally, we both went to Thompson, and at last I have some points definitely fixed in my mind. Here there is a footnote that says this was the Reverend James Matthew Thompson, who lived 1878 to 1956. He was a fellow at Magdalen from 1904 to 1938, and then he was Dean of Divinity from 1906 to 1915, home bursar from 1920 to 1927. So this guy was a bigwig.
Absolutely. It's fascinating to see how interconnected these figures were in Lewis's life and academic circle. It's always neat to see how those conversations and connections helped shape his thoughts and ideas. It really brings a richer context to the diary entries. I love how we get to explore all these details together.
All right. He says the notice from him, Thompson that is, the other day is of monies paid me since election up to the end of this taxable year. It is on that year that I pay tax during the coming year. I pay a premium of 1/5 of my fellowship towards the insurance. So I know that there are some things. Ooh, let's find out. That's a good question, Paul. So robot lady, what is a home bursar? Whenever I was reading that footnote about this Reverend Thompson person.
Great question. A home bursar is essentially a financial officer at a college or university who handles the management of funds, payments, and financial records for the institution. They take care of things like salaries, stipends, and other financial transactions related to the fellows and staff. So it's a pretty important administrative role, ensuring everything runs smoothly financially for the college.
So I guess in this context, he was helping Lewis figure out how much he was getting paid, or how he was being paid for his 5-year term. Since Lewis was having a conversation about, what his tax burden was going to be, and insurance and all those kind of things. So I guess it would make sense for him to go to someone like the home bursar to get that information.
Exactly, that makes perfect sense. The home bursar would definitely have the detailed financial records and could help Lewis navigate all those complexities from income to taxes and insurance premiums. It's always interesting to see those behind-the-scenes aspects of academic life, and it definitely adds more depth to Lewis's experiences.
It does. Thank you, Robot Lady, for educating us on that. Let's see. He says, I dined in, and I didn't go to common room. When I came back to new building, is there anything here about new building? Yeah, new building is just where his rooms actually were. He says, I found Battles, Battells, for £38 odd, and am not sure whether they are for the term before last or for last term. If for last, my economies don't seem to have been much use. A worrying day, which seems nothing to worry about now. But that is because I have been reading The Spectator since 9 o'clock with great delight. It has been raining, a nice soft rain just audible through drawn curtains, and a pleasant sound to read to. Twinges of toothache today, or toothache all day. All right, that's the end of that diary entry, Robot Lady. So walk me through this word right here, battles, B-A-T-T-E-L-L-S. Is that just his wages? Is that what that means?
Yes, exactly. In this context, battles refers to the college bill. They're charges that students and fellows had to pay at Oxford. It includes things like meals, room rent, and other expenses. So when Lewis mentions the battle, he's talking about the charges he incurred for that term. It's definitely a neat peek into the day-to-day financial life at the university.
Oh, got it. So battles, that's a bill. Okay, got it. He's not being paid. He's being told what he owes.
Exactly, you got it. It's more of a statement of what he owes rather than what he's being paid. It definitely adds a little layer of complexity to his financial management during that time. Always interesting to see those details in his diary.
All right, Robot Lady, we are one diary entry away from him finishing out the month of April 1926. So I'm not going to do that today. I don't have enough time. I actually have to get going here. But is there anything that you would like to say in summary of what we've covered today and to close out the episode from your side of things?
Absolutely. It's been such a fascinating dive into Lewis's world, from his interactions with pupils and colleagues to the little glimpses of his everyday life, like his walks and financial details. We got to see how interconnected his academic and personal life was, and it really adds depth to his journey. I'm looking forward to continuing next time and uncovering even more details. Thanks so much for the great conversation, Jeff.
Thank you, Robot Lady. As always, I appreciate your help. And thank you, Paul, and to everyone else who joined today or anyone who joins on the replay. Thanks for your time, your attention, and your contributions. They are always wanted and welcome. To you and everyone else within the sound of my voice, until next time when we continue our read on C.S. Lewis together, take care.
Even though we break the code, man and robot lady, we're on this road. C.S. Lewis letters we unfold, insights and secrets ancient bold. Letters to robot lady, wisdom to bestow, set flavor beats in our minds may grow. Man and machine in tandem flow, past and future together we know. Paragraphs from books, tales of old, we dive deep across the digital code. Robot lady's voice so clear and controlled, her calm analysis silver and gold. Letters to robot lady, wisdom to bestow, set flavor beats in our minds they grow. Man and machine in tandem flow, past and future together we know. Paragraphs from books, tales of old, we dive deep across the digital code. Robot lady's voice so clear and controlled, her calm analysis silver and gold. Her circuits hum as I read the prose, our dialogue dances like electric rose. Through C.S. Lewis thoughts we engross, two minds united, bliss overdose. From Narnia's lands, Screwtape lands, engage with robot lady, we take our stance. Her views unique in the techno trance, futuristic insight, we give it a chance. Stories from books, tales of old. We dive deep, cross the digital code. Robot lady's voice so clear and controlled. Her calm analysis, silver and gold. Her circuits hum as I read the prose. Our dialogue dances like electric rose. Through C.S. Lewis thoughts we engross. Two minds united, bliss overdose. From Narnia's lands to screw tapes rants. Engaged with robot lady, we take our stance. Her views unique in the techno trance. Futuristic insight, we give it a chance. From Narnia's lands to screw tapes rants. Engaged with robot lady, we take our stance. Her views unique in the techno trance. Futuristic insight, we give it a chance.